What are composite CSS selectors? If you remember, a CSS selector indicates where the CSS, the particular style, property and value is going to be applied. Okay, we can apply CSS selectors to every single instance of a particular tag. We can apply CSS to some instances of a tag, and we can also apply CSS to one unique instance of a particular tag. Okay, so let's create a web page. Let's get our basic template code here from Moodle. And let's go and create a web page, and we'll explain all this. Okay, so we'll just make a test page here, and let's call it something like that, composite css.html. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to add a series of H1 and paragraphs, and we're going to apply some styles to all H1s, some H1s, one H1, and some H1s and some Ps, some paragraphs. Okay, so let's call the first heading, or let's just call it num1, okay, num H1. And just create some text in there, and let's call the paragraph new P1, something like that. Okay. You're probably beginning to realize that I am a big fan of Father Ted. Correct. And who could forget Mrs. Doyle as well? Okay, so let's run this and let's put the code over there. So we've got 3 paragraphs, 3 headings. Let's apply some style to this. Okay, so first of all, let us apply style to every single H1 tag. Okay, and that's the easiest of everything, because we just write the tag name as a CSS selector. H1, let's say red text. Okay, there we go there. Let's apply style to one of the H1s. Okay, and so we are going to use the ID called NUM capital H1. Okay, and let's put underline in it. Text decoration underline, that's coming up there. Okay, just check that that's working there. Okay, now I want to apply a style to some headings. Okay, let's apply style to some H1s. So we're going to use the class property. So let's call this class some H1, and there will be no point applying that to every single H1, because that's the same as just applying the style to every single H1. So let me apply this style to the first and the second. And what are we going to do here? Some H1, there's a CSS selector, and because it's a class, we put a dot in front of it. And let's say font family, let's put in monospace, just so it will look different. These two will look different. So let's save that, and you should see Father Ted and Dougal have a different font to Father Jack. Okay, we could do the same things with paragraphs. Okay, again, you can see I've got a unique paragraph. The first one, I could apply style for that if I want, but it's just going to work the same as the unique ID for the H1. But what I want to do now is I want to apply the same style across some paragraphs and some H1s. So let's create a style, a CSS selector called some both. Okay, and let's use, okay, we're going to apply this to the last two, Father Jack and Mrs. Doyle. And let's give them a background color. Of yellow. Okay, so some both. And let's put that in this H1 here. Okay, like that. There we go. Okay. Father Jack and Mrs. Doyle. So we've got some of the H1s, just one in this case. Some of the P's, the style is being applied across them. Okay, so a class can go across different types of tags and be applied to more than one instance of a particular tag. In fact, let's just put. Let's put Dougal with a yellow background as well. So how do you do that? I take class equals some both, and you might think, well, hold on, I've got class equals some H1 for Dougal, but all I do is I add a space there and I paste that in there. Okay, so we can see now that a particular tag can have more than one class applied to it. Okay, like so. So Dougal is in the class where the font family is monospace, and Dougal is also in the class where the background color is yellow. Okay, supposing I want to apply a style to both Father Ted and to the tags with the yellow background. Okay, you might think, well, I'm going to develop another class for that, but I'm not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's called a composite. Okay, and this is what a composite is. First of all, what is the ID of the first H1? It's num H1, and composite just means I'm separating, I've got more than one thing written before the curly bracket. Okay, and then I separate them by a comma. So num1 and the sum both. And what am I going to do with these? Let's space the letters out. In fact, let's make it 25 so it'll be really obvious. Okay, so this is a composite, so it's a combination of both an ID and a class. And there we go there. Okay, so we can see Father Ted is spread out because it's num H1 ID, and then Dougal, Father Jack and Mrs. Doyle are spaced out because in more than one sense of the word, because they are in the class some both. Okay, yeah, so that is applying style to all instances of a tag, some instances of a tag, some instances of one particular tag and some instances of another tag, and finally applying a composite style. And in fact, what I could do as well is I could do something like this. Okay, I am going to apply the letter spacing to both the first H1, the second and third H1, and the third paragraph with the class, and then the address tag as well. So I need to put an address tag in. And sure, where else would they live but Craggy Island. Okay, and we know from Ring of Gullion that the default there will be italicized like that. Okay, so Craggy Island is spaced out there, and it's picking up that composite style. Yeah, so that is composite CSS there.